Y'all, we're doing a special breakout for Nerd News because, unfortunately, our black brothers and sisters and vampires are down bad.
Tough.
It was recently announced that Blade is no longer on the MCU calendar, okay? It has been delayed indefinitely. We're going to be breaking down the timeline of the troubled production of the MCU project and how we feel now, likely that we won't see Blade in the MCU anytime soon or maybe ever. Steve, before we kind of get into the discussion of it, could you go down maybe like a brief timeline of all the fucked up shit that has led us to this moment with Blade?
Okay, so here is the timeline. So in July of 2019, Mahershala Ali is announced to star in the upcoming Marvel film Blade at San Diego Comic-Con. He puts on the hat with Kevin Feige. Everybody debuts the logo.
Dude,
July
2019.
2019. February 2021, we go forward. Hollywood Reporter reports that the studio spent more than 6 months meeting with writers, consulting with Mahershala Ali, and then choosing Osei Kufor, a veteran playwright, for the project. Now we go to July 2021. Bassam Tariq is signed on to direct the movie. November 5th, 2021, Mahershala Ali makes his first appearance as a post-credits cameo in The Eternals. We remember that.
Yeah, I forgot
Are
about
you sure
that.
you're ready for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
September 22, Tariq leaves the project very shortly, before the scheduled shooting in November of that year. Marvel says that his departure was due to, quote, continued shifts in the production schedule. However, rumors suggest otherwise, that it was creative differences, the whole nine. November 2022, Jan Dimaj quickly signs on as a director shortly after Tariq departs. Also at this time, Michael Starbury is brought on to write a new script. April 2023, Mia Goth is cast, rumored to play the villain, and then the film also gets a new writer in Nick Pizzolatto. November 2023, Variety publishes an article detailing a variety of problems the Marvel Studio is facing, among them issues with Blade's production. The article also mentioned that Michael Green had been hired to start from scratch again with another script for the film. June 2024, the movie gets yet another new writer in Eric Pearson. He's now the 5th writer attached to the project. July of 2024, Deadpool and Wolverine premieres, making a joke at the film's production woes, saying that Wesley Snipes is only going to be the only Blade, and it makes a cameo including Wesley Snipes' Blade. October 2024, the film's release is delayed indefinitely.
All right, so I guess the main question is right now, I'm assuming nobody's surprised about this.
No.
Not at this point.
There was no world.
Yeah.
This movie was coming out next year.
Yeah.
Right. So what, if anything, does this mean? Number one, does Blade have a place in the MCU? The original Blade movie, for as important, as really groundbreaking, and as fundamental to comic book films, the new era of comic book films as it is, it sometimes doesn't seem like that Blade or Blade that we know can even exist in this MCU. And it doesn't seem like they had a clear blueprint as to how to bring him in.
Got that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, again, we talked about this for how many years now? You just make John Wick with vampires. We make an action vampire movie. It can't be that
MCU
hard.
Can't do that.
Why not?
No, they can. Like, artistically, they can. I don't think that they're in a place of power or belief, that they're just like, we can step out on a limb and we can make a movie that's different from kind of the cookie cutter mold of the MCU that we know, where it's like Whedon and the Avengers really did coalesce how these characters talk and what the movies look like and how bright it is and how funny. And
I mean, not really, because then you get Guardians in 2014.
But Guardians is still very attached. What's the darkest the MCU has ever gone?
The darkest?
Yeah.
They don't really do dark.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, they don't do
maybe you could say
Werewolf by Night?
Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, that could be
Werewolf
it.
by Night is dark. There was a
Black
shit
and
ton
white?
of blood and gore in Deadpool versus Wolverine. That's your first R-rated situation.
But that's a bit of a new precedent.
It's a new precedent.
But
Also, it's not as dark or bloody as the previous Deadpool movies.
Well, but what I'm saying is, though, the fact that the MCU is right now a little bit more daring than it's ever been.
Yes.
They've taken some of the guardrails off.
Yeah.
The MCU used to be afraid to do same-sex couples in these these movies and shows.
Yeah, but where is that experimentation happening? I think that experimentation is happening on the margins, where it's like it's happening on Disney Plus shows at a time.
No, Deadpool and Wolverine has a ton of violence in it. People getting cut up and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
The only thing I get I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think a natural progression from fare that's a little bit more aggressive could have been this Blade movie.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
But I still don't know if tonally they knew how to do it, to your point. I think they're scared.
I think that there's also, I'm kind of looking at this, at least seeing this whole timeline played out when I was writing this. I'm like, oh, as this timeline comes, like July 2019, they're still operating on the highest highs they've ever been at. Like this was like just before Endgame, Infinity War, stuff like that. Obviously, they would want to come out from a place of strength to say that Blade was coming, along with a litany of other projects. And then as Phase 4 keeps coming back, you see the grander picture of the MCU kind of wanting to scale back because this is where a couple of L's start to happen for the MCU.
But
Budgets get higher, box office draws get lower.
But this, to his point, not to cut you off,
Sure.
not to cut your wisdom, as we say in the community, but that is the thing with a Blade movie that's frustrating a lot of the people that I've talked to.
Really?
A lot of the people that I've talked to in the town, black screenwriters, black writers, some that have been in and around this picture, is you don't need $150 million
Exactly.
to make a good Blade
You could do this 100 mil,
Like, you got
125.
You could do it. You could kill the motherfucker for 60 if you had the right talent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just do. You don't need.
Motherfucker did The Brutalist for how much?
Right. But what I'm saying is, with this one, you have a guy up against even the controversial Bo DeMeo said, just give me the Raid with vampires. The question is not whether or not you have the money. The question is whether or not you have the nuts.
And that's my actual thing that I see through the tea leaves here, where they're like, Marvel actually doesn't really have a grip on the steering wheel for a lot more than we might have thought, because to mess up something, to not get something as right as getting a Blade movie across the finish line,
I don't know, man.
They might not have the sauce.
The more I think about it, it's kind of embarrassing. It's like really embarrassing because how hard is it to make the Raid with vampires? How hard is it to make an action movie with vampires?
Which, not to say making movies is hard. Like getting all of these things done is a monumental
Can I
feat.
be honest though? If we just look at the last couple years, we say this about a lot of shit. How hard is it to get a Moon Knight show? I'm like, this motherfucker, like, he just needs to punch motherfuckers. Like, same thing with She-Hulk. How hard is it to have a show where it's just like, that's a TV show? Fucking Ally McBeal.
And so they clearly have been overthinking this.
They're doing way too much.
Why?
But if you have Blade, think about some things that happen around this. Blade comes into. At what point was Blade made a member of the Avengers? Somebody look this up. Blade was made a member of the Avengers
Not
in the
Midnight
comic
Suns,
books,
but-
right?
Yes. Like when he had a whole event this year.
Right. This is because they were setting some background to make Blade a bigger thing in the actual MCU, right? If they can't figure out how to do that, sometimes it feels like if they can't figure out how to stick you in an Avengers movie and make you have some utility there, that they don't want to do your story.
Wait, can I ask this? Do you think it's also something where, because Chadwick is no longer with us, rest in peace, and the Black Panther films had this, like, they were a moment culturally, all of these things. Do you think that they were overthinking Blade, where they're like, we have to get this right? And I'm in a way where I'm like, actually, I think if they did a Blade movie and it was an 80%, like not even 100, it was just like an 80%, like good. I think black people be like, hey, shit, yeah, we had a fucking good time. It don't gotta be a 10 out of 10, 100.
So this is the important question. You have Mahershala Ali, who at that point was, I mean, he's still he's gigantic, but at that point it was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Was he fresh off the Green Book Oscar? I believe?
Like he's the man. I bet you love that. He's like he's the man, right? He's the man.
Yeah.
So he's getting a little older now. He's getting into his 50s to where maybe you don't have as much of a future with the character as you thought you would have, right? Yeah. That's number one. But that's also because you took too long. There's the pandemic in there. There's a whole bunch of things that are happening.
Yeah.
The second thing is, even though we're talking about like how easy it is to execute the movie, there's one thing that makes the movie a little bit more difficult. One thing is the old movies.
Yeah.
Is that if you make a Blade movie, you have to make a Blade movie, because we're not talking about redoing Blade, and Blade was made in like 19. We're talking about like the same thing with kind of Batman, to where when you make a new Batman, you have to either make it different or you have to make it better,
Yeah.
right? Because Nolan just fucking did Batman. Like you have
And
to
that
make
was
it-
one of the best we've
You
ever
have to
seen.
make it different.
And,
you have to make it
this
better.
is the first time actually in the MCU proper where I feel like they've had to do this on this scale.
Yeah.
Some people would be like Spider-Man, but I'm like, Spider-Man is a character who was like, motherfuckers are gonna see Spider-Man no matter. Like, you can have a bad Spider-Man movie, and in a couple years we're gonna come back. With Blade, they're probably thinking, if those movies are so beloved, especially by Black audiences, if we fuck it up, do we fuck up so much other
Well,
shit?
think about what they did with Spider-Man, though. And we've talked about this before. I don't want to go deep into it. But what they essentially did with Spider-Man is to get Spider-Man into the MCU, they had to make him Iron Man Jr.
Yeah.
And they had to make him fit into, they had to take one of the biggest solo characters. I'm not saying that they ruined Spider-Man. What I'm saying is they did something with Spider-Man that you just cannot do with Blade.
Yeah.
Because Blade doesn't play as well with others
Yeah.
as Spider-Man does.
I mean, you could like do Midnight Suns and then do Blade.
You could do Midnight Suns.
Midnight
For sure can do
Suns
Midnight Suns.
Sucks. We need to. We
You
need to
could
stop
make that
acting-
shit cool.
Fuck adding. Here's the thing.
Man, Iron
Let's
Man
not
sucked before he had his
overcomplicate it.
own movie.
Here's the thing. The MCU needs to get to a point where it's okay if the Blade movies are just Blade movies. I don't need
Yeah.
to actually see Blade in the Avengers for him to be cool. I actually think he's cooler, him being off in a corner. I think there's other like X-Men characters, whatever, where I'm like, every X-Men character don't gotta pop in the Avengers. Everyone don't gotta be Iron Man.
And I think that's kind of what we were losing in the grander scheme of Phase 4, because we had all of these threads that were just thrown up in the air
Yeah.
and never capitalized on.
Yeah.
And we don't think that, like, I don't know if any of those are going to be caught in the next seeming phase or anything leading up to Doomsday or Fantastic Four or whatever.
You
Last
guys,
week-
you guys remember when Arishem came to Earth and just took people away and there was a
Hey,
big
wait,
cloud in
hey,
the sky?
Nobody cares. It never
Hey.
happened.
hey,
All right, last
Brave
question.
New World, Brave New World.
Last question before we get out
Adamantium's
of
coming
here.
back.
Last question before we get out of here. The adamantium thing is good. Last question before we get out of here. Does Blade have a future in the MCU? Are we going to look up 6 months from now? It's indefinitely on hold. Are we going to look up 6 months from now and it's going to be Trevante Rose as Blade? It's going to be
Oh my god.
I think they step away from this for a while.
Aaron Pierre's Blade.
Aaron Pierre as Blade. Does Blade have a future in the MCU? I do not think that Mahershala Ali has a future as
No,
Blade.
I do not think so.
But will we see Blade in the MCU ever?
yes.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
not
Yes.
soon.
Well, not another Blade because we already saw Blade in the
It's only going to be one Blade.
We saw Wesley Snipes as Blade in the MCU.
Why can't I?
Like, will we see does Blade the character have a future in the MCU beyond?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
Because
I
here's the
think we
thing,
will.
we're getting to the point where it's like Blade is what? If there's tiers, if there's like SA, he's in that A to B.
Yeah.
There's not that many heroes that the MCU has that have the cachet of Blade.
Blade's
So,
a A tier, B tier character? In the
I think as far as a box office draw, yes.
box office draw, yeah, not an S.
Yeah, I wasn't outside. That's what I mean. I wasn't
Wait,
outside.
what? He wouldn't
I
be?
wasn't outside.
Well,
You don't-
niggas know Blade. Now.
Nigga, yeah,
Blade's
but
beloved.
like,
Where
Yeah.
would you put him?
Wait, hold on.
you got
hold
like
on.
in
Hold on real quick.
2024?
So, Jomi,
What?
just we talked about it on a different podcast. Your rap takes. So you like Eminem, but you hate Blade.
This
I'm
is
not saying I hate
crazy.
Blade.
That's all you guys need to know about Jomi.
I'm saying in,
I-
in 2024,
Blade is a big deal.
Blade is a
Yeah,
fucking
Blade's a
big
big
deal,
deal.
Joey.
Blade's a big
Blade's a big deal. Blade's a big deal. Blade's a big deal. bruh.
Niggas love Blade, bro.
Yeah, Blade's a big deal. Blade's a
I
big
wasn't
deal.
outside.
He was,
You
he
were
was
not
almost the
outside.
biggest
You
part
were
of
outside.
Deadpool
I wasn't
fucking
outside.
Wolverine,
You were
bro.
outside.
I
All
wasn't
right, we
outside.
out.
We're
I
like
wasn't
we're
outside.
out of here. We'll see what happens in the future, but I will say this before we get out of here. Marvel needs to stop the stutter steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pump faking, this is one of the biggest pump fakes in Marvel history. You can't pump fake with this type of character. Like when you promise people something, execute the movie, get it together, and get it on the fucking screen.
Telling you that Michael B. Jordan vampire movie gonna come out. It's gonna do.
Oh, that's going to
It's
be
gonna go
terrible
crazy.
things for the
It's gonna be
Blade
crazy.
discourse.
And they're gonna be like, "Hey, Ryan Coogler, come save us, please. We're begging you, please."
All right. We out.